All right, let's do this. If you finish before time is called, you may check your work on this section, but you may not turn to any other section. You may use the test book for scratch work, but you must mark your answers on the answer sheet unless you are approved to mark them in your test book. Sorry if that just gave you PTSD or flashbacks to the SAT, but this is a direct script from the SAT, and I just wanted to put you in the right mindset for what we're going to be talking about today. But before we get to that, I just want to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Ryan Finley. I graduated in the top 2% of my class. My GPA was above a 5.0, but I took the ACT 3 times just to get a somewhat average score. That being said, the ACT and the SAT should be eliminated. And no, not just from my personal stressful experience, but there's so many studies that show that this test or these tests are not as unbiased as everyone thinks they are, or as they should be in the first place. So let's talk about this. According to the Educational Testing Service, standardized tests can eliminate bias and prevent unfair advantages by testing the same or similar information under the same testing conditions in an ideal world. But as of 2019, whether broken down by the test taker's race, parental education, or household income, the average SAT scores of students from historically disenfranchised groups fell further behind than their classmates from privileged families, according to Robert Schaefer, the director at Fair Test. So let's look at what he's talking about. As we see here, as family income increases, so does the test score, and this pattern does not waver. There's about a 400-point difference between the lowest family income and the highest family income test scores. And in addition to this, the fact that it's not fair, testing itself isn't cheap. Now, you can test for the first time and there'll be a waiver. You can do it for free. A lot of schools offer that, but a lot of people retake the test multiple times, and each test is around $50. Plus, some tutors can cost up to $1,000 an hour, according to an article by Carolyn Thompson on PBS. And in extreme cases, let's not forget about the college admission scandal, where really rich celebrities are paying for their students to go to college or to get into college. Not to mention, so much high pressure and high stakes are put on the ACT and SAT. School funding is based around these scores, and scholarships and college admissions are affected by these scores, according to an essay by Chris Streetman called Abolishing the ACT and SAT. So all that being said, lower income students who need scholarships, who need good schools with good funding, and just to get into college in general, are being penalized from this unfair test. So why not just improve the test and try to level out the playing field? Well, actually, both tests have come a long way in trying to make the test more fair across demographics. Like, they have updated the content of math and reading questions. Like, for instance, in spring 2016, the SAT created an optional essay to increase your score and made reading and writing more evidence-based than just stuff you know off the top of your head. The SAT also created a partnership with Khan Academy for free online test prep, and there's also a limited amount of free online ACT prep as well. But even after this, the demographic divide still remains, and the amount and the quality of test prep still depends on what you can afford. So, first of all, just imagine not having to wake up at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning to go to some campus to take test after hour until your brain is fried, your day is gone, and all of this pressure is placed on this one test on this one day. I had a friend who retook the ACT 5 times, paid for a tutor, spent countless hours studying just to qualify for the Palmetto Fellow Scholarship, and she, after all that, still didn't even qualify. That's all that money just gone. And then thousands of colleges across the US are moving in the right direction and making their application process test optional. And it's proven to be beneficial. For instance, let's look at Wake Forest, one of the first universities to go test optional. Follow-up studies at Wake Forest showed that the average high school GPA of incoming freshmen increased after the school stopped using standardized test scores as a factor. This is shown in a New York Times article by Todd Boff. Also in this article, it talks about how before going test optional, the amount of students admitted at Wake Forest in the top 10% of their class was in the low 60s. But then after going test optional, the amount of students admitted in the top 10% of their class went up to 79%. That means people don't hate the ACT and the SAT just because they're not smart and they know they're going to get a bad grade. It's just because most of the time they are smart and they know that this is not a true symbol of how good they are as students. A quote here from a professor at Wake Forest University says, his name is Joseph A. Soares, and he says, the test highly correlates with family income. High school grades do not. We have a lot more social, racial, and lifestyle diversity. You can see it on campus. Wake Forest was a little too much like a J. Crew catalog before we went test optional. So let me reiterate. The ACT and SAT should be eliminated. It's just not a fair representation of people as students. Instead, it is broken down by racial and class, income, and we need to express to colleges and government officials that this just isn't fair and is not actually an unbiased representation of us as students. There's too much pressure placed on one test. The amount of money we receive from colleges should not depend on one test that we took one day. So remember, you're more than just a number. Colleges claim to look at you as a student, but this quote here from author and Cornell professor Robert Sternberg says, I know that when I'm reading applications and as the night goes on and I'm reading more and more, it gets more and more tempting to count the SATs. He said, it's easier than reading these long essays and teacher recommendations. It's just human nature. So with so much emphasis placed on one test score, it's just hard not to focus on that test score and see you as a number. So we need to express to colleges that we come from all walks of life. And our value as a student is not clearly shown through the ACT and the SAT. Thank you.